I'm really, really good. Thank you so much
Recording in
for agreeing to
progress.
chat to us.
Oh my gosh, thank you for talking to me. I'm honored.
No problem at all. So, Zelda, I have to say, I've sat down and watched the film and I loved it. So, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
So, tell us a little bit about where the idea for this film came about, because you were so involved with this film, writing, directing, and acting. Where did the original idea for the film come about?
Yes, so it originally came from this idea actually called The Devil's Daughter. My mom found out some news about her father, that the father that she had grown up with was not her actual biological father. She'd actually been donor conceived. So that kind of sparked some thoughts when we all were talking about it. It was like, wow, what if your father was some crazy person? What if he was the devil? And then we had this idea, what if I, as a character, find out that one of my parents was the devil? And then we were like, you know what? As a family of filmmakers, we don't exactly have the budget for that. So let's make our own mythological creature. And so that's where we developed our own concept of what a hellbender is. And that's where this story was kind of born.
How long did that take to flesh out? Because I love that you've created your own being rather than going back and using something that we've seen in cinema so many times. How long did that take to flesh out, and how fun was that journey creating your own being?
Oh my gosh, it was so fun. That's something that I love most about horror, is that there are no rules. You can do whatever you want. You can make your own mythological creatures. And I would say, it took a little while to develop our idea of what a hellbender is and to come up with that mythology and history. But a lot of like what our filmmaking style is, we just learn as we go, to be honest. And the more we film, the more we learn about the story that we're telling. Yeah.
So how much of development for your character did you go into before you started filming as well? Because your character is such an interesting focal point of this film. Tell us a little bit about that development of that character.
Yeah, so most of the time we shoot in a chronological order for our films. So in the beginning, I knew what the story was about, but personally I felt like I didn't know much about Izzy's character. I didn't feel like as connected, but as the film went, it was so interesting because I felt more and more involved in the character. And it was in the beginning of the movie, it was kind of like I was just acting as myself, to be honest, because I was just, playing the daughter and my mom was playing the mom, and we just have such a special relationship. So it was honestly just like playing mother and daughter on screen. But towards the end of the movie, it got a little bit more difficult because I had to remind myself, wow, I'm a changing character. I am having an arc right now. I have to become a little bit more sinister and evil and embrace my hellbenderism. So that was something I definitely had to remind myself for the development of Izzy.
Yeah. So what is that like working with your mum? Like, it's something that so few people ever get to do. Like, I know for myself, when I was doing acting when I was younger, my parents aren't into the arts at all. So what's that like, being able to work with your mum and play mother and daughter on screen?
It's really special, first of all, just to be able to watch her. She's a fantastic actress, and I learned so much just by watching her and being in her presence. But also, just as a daughter, it's so special because I get to just kind of hang out with her in front of a screen. A lot of those scenes, especially the one in the snow with the throw up and the blood, that was just a fantastic bonding experience where we were being, rough and ready with one another. But towards the end, kind of like I was saying before, it got a little bit more difficult because my mom and I are really, really close. We never argue. And towards the end, when we're having a bit more of a feud, that was a little bit difficult, being
Yep.
more hostile to my mom.
How do you turn off from that as well? I mean, it's quite easy if you're doing a scene and it's a pretty full-on scene and it's someone that you can go away from at the end of the day and not see to the next day. But like you said, you've got a close relationship with your mum. How do you turn that off then when you have a feud like that, like what you see in the film?
It's, you know what? I guess I just really have to remind myself, oh, this is fake. I'm gonna go eat peanut butter and jellies with her and laugh right after this scene. So it kind of makes it fun, getting to explore, yeah, a kind of sassier side or more sinister side that I never would, do with her.
Yeah. I also love the visuals of this film. This film is visually spectacular. Was that something that was there on the page in the first place? Like, did you always know how you wanted this film to look?
Oh, well, thank you so much. This movie was actually something really new for us. Our last film, The Deep You Dig, was shot all in winter, which is very stark, black and white, not too much color except for blue hues. And then for Hellbender, this was basically shot all throughout the year, all of the different seasons. So that includes a lot more color with the vibrancy of the leaves and the vibrancy of summer. So we had to tackle working with color, which was really, really new. And we didn't go into it exactly with that goal in mind. But within the process, we fell in love with working in just a world of color and saturation. And I think it added to the fun and to the kind of psychedelicness of the movie.
So tell us a little bit about that filming in the different seasons. Like, that must have been quite a strange thing to do as well, because normally with a film you work on it for a few months and it's done. But what was it like having to pack up and go, right, we're not doing any more to summer, or we're not doing any more to winter? What was that like as a filmmaker?
It can be tricky because you're working with a limited amount of time. But that's kind of why we do shoot in a chronological order, and also why we edit as we go. So if we go out and shoot a scene because the sun is just right or the snow is just right, we go out and shoot it and then immediately go home, put it into the computer, and see if the footage looks good. And if it does, perfect. But if it doesn't, we have to go out and shoot it again, or else once all the snow melts, we're screwed, you know?
Yep.
But I would say shooting throughout the seasons definitely increases efficiency because you have to get it done, you know?
Yeah, we've talked about the positives. What's the most difficult thing you find filming this way? Is there something that you wish you could overcome, but it just becomes really difficult with a shoot like this?
Since we work on such a small scale and with not too big of a budget, it can be, there have been times where I'm like, wow, it'd be so cool if I had like a huge camera or huge, like, amazing drone to do this shot. But I think it's really actually a lot of the disadvantages of working as a family on such a small scale turn into the advantages because we are able to just go out and shoot whenever we want. We are able to just edit whenever we want, which, I think it can be hard when you have a bigger crew to do that.
Definitely. So tell us a little bit about how you feel now that the film has been received so well. Like, the fact that it's even going to be on Shudder is such a big thing. How does that all make you feel?
It's honestly incredible. When we found out that we were going to be working with Shudder, it really didn't feel real. Every day we just would wake up and look at each other like, is this happening right now? What? And we just feel so welcomed and, honored that Shudder and everyone is reacting to it the way that they are. Especially a little family like us, I honestly never would have really imagined it. So the fact that it's happening is just beyond my dreams.
How did that relationship with Shudder come about?
We started working with this team called Yellow Veil, and they helped us throughout the festival circuit, and then they helped connect us with Shudder, and the relationship just bloomed from there.
So tell us about the festival circuit. That's something that I always find so fascinating. Do you get nervous before your film shows at every festival, or do you get generally excited that people out there are going to be able to sit down and watch your baby?
Well, it's a mix of both, definitely, for sure. I'm not gonna lie, I do get nervous. Like, oh, what if when I'm inside the theater, like people don't like it and they're not laughing when they should laugh, or the energy just isn't right. But I feel like that's the natural fear. But most of the time, I'm just really excited for people to see it and to learn about what people liked and what they didn't like. As filmmakers, you learn the most throughout the festival circuit in Q&As and interviews and reviews, whatever people say. And you can take those into account in your next film. But I always say that the festival circuit is like my favorite part about making films. I think that's most of the reason why we do it, so that we can go to festivals and watch films and learn from the audience.
Definitely. Now, I wasn't sure if I was going to have time to ask these questions, so these are why they're at the end. But how much did you know about the American history with witchcraft? Because I found that one of the most fascinating things that I learnt about at university when I was studying was that America has such a rich history of witchcraft, whereas most people think that it comes from Europe and England. Tell us a little bit about how much you knew about the American history with witchcraft and how important that was to the film.
Right, yeah. I mean, I can't say I'm a master on, the history of witchcraft, but I've been homeschooled 2 years in my school career, and in those 2 years, Toby taught me a lot about the witchcraft, and it was so fun to learn about, especially the women in witchcraft, especially in Salem. And but I would say that Toby put in the most research into, witchcraft and into old histories like and gods like Lamia. I don't even know what these people are because Toby did most of the research. But also John was when he was in college, he majored in religion. So having Toby's knowledge on witchcraft and John's knowledge on religion was definitely helpful to grow up around and implementing into this movie.
What was the most fascinating thing that you learnt about all of that? Because I know there's always that one thing that someone learns and they're like, wow, I would not have expected that.
That's a really, really good question. And I think talking about Lamia, that was a god that Toby did a lot of research on, and she ate babies. And that was just really interesting to learn about. And I hope I'm correct on this, but just hearing about, a mythological creature eating babies is like, oh God, how much worse can you get?
Well, Zelda, we'll wrap it up because we are running out of time very, very quickly. But what would you like to say to everybody out there who are about to sit down and watch Hellbender on Shudder?
Well, I am just so excited for everyone to watch it, and I think it's a really big story about identity. So hopefully everyone can latch on to, a kind of similar theme of identity within the movie, and I hope that you enjoy it.
Definitely. Well, Zelda, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. It's been an absolute honor chatting to you, and